on
Yeah,
that
thanks
day.
for being a true
I
friend.
think this is perfect because I've become like this elusive creature. So like this one time I show up in your church, and I'm sure like institutions of the place, you bring 117 of you when you show up, but like I'm glad that in this particular case I show up and you're not there.
Yeah.
And so like and there's no pictures, so there's no actual proof that I was like maybe I was, maybe I feel like it's like the Tasmanian tiger in Australia where they're like in remote villages. There's still like an occasional sighting and it's supposed to be extinct.
Yeah.
I like to think that that's what that was.
Well, I do want to say thank you, Matt, for coming to my son's baptism.
It's an honor. And
Michael, you're dead to me. You missed it. I will tell him that every night before bed. Michael didn't show up, but Matt did. No, I'm just kidding. But I should say this. It was really cool. My oldest, Jaden, his teacher last year was April, Matt's wife, and it was real. I bet Jaden loves your wife. It was really cool that she made the trip out. That y'all made the trip out. That was very, very meaningful. Even though y'all go to a Presbyterian church, you still participate.
Yeah, so thank you for giving me some homework to do when I got there, talking with my son. I'm like, hey, here's what's going on here. But in fairness, my wife was obviously the one that was doing most of the work in this case. She was honored to come. I was honored to be a part of it. I'll be honest, seeing you as a dad, like kind of talk about your son, like kind of your vision for him, your pride in him, was moving and different for me as an emotionally repressed meathead. Like seeing you kind of listen, I'm like, I'm not going to shed one tear. I won't do it, but I felt it in here, man. And Jonathan's behind me, and I think he can he can sense if I'm going to crack it all, and I'm like, I can show nothing, just grit and determination, because if he sees this, he'll never let me live it down. And there's nothing I hate more than for Jonathan White, that guy, to have a one-up on me.
That guy, the nerve.
All right, so welcome back, honored guest, Matt Gilbert. And one of your passions, I think, is communication. Like I know that if there's a subject that you are passionate about, you also like to communicate that. And I know you're also passionate about football.
Correct, yes.
And I know that you like the challenge of maybe taking more than one side of a coin, and maybe like seeing if you can argue a particular position.
I don't like where
so
this is going.
I think for the next 2 minutes, you should argue Zach into being a Patriots fan.
Oh, please. Oh,
all the things that are good about being the Patriots.
And honestly, it hurts me that I'm going to do this. But for some reason, I'm willing to try this, even though it disgusts me. So just know, here's where I got to start with this, okay? I am a long-suffering, self-loathing Titans fan. And there's dozens of us out there. I mean, dozens. That's just what's out there, okay? And we're all cynical and we're all super salty about it. So here's the deal. Our coach, who was the one good thing the entire organization had, was fired because reasons. And so naturally, as soon as he was on the free agent market as a coach for like 5 minutes, that giant, glorious meathead, Mike Vrabel, who listen, clearly I'm not of the athletic standard. You can take a look at the physique. I'm not exactly NFL ready. But if that man was leading troops into like Kandahar or Fallujah or somewhere, I'd be right behind him. Like Mike Vrabel's my dude. And he's a man's man, and he runs that team now. And so what I think you're going to get once again is like competence. And so here's what I understand as a sports fan, as a Titans fan. I don't know who your team is. I should know that, but I don't know.
Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay, well, see, this is going to be hard for me because all I know is pain as a fan. All I know is pain and then numbness. And the numbness is what you just hope for, because in the words of the great American philosopher Ted Lasso, it's the hope that kills you. And so you have a little bit of hope. And here's the thing, it's going to be hard. I'll be honest, root for Aaron Rodgers this year. That's a little weird.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
But Patriots, you have a couple-year lag. They're the gold standard for a long period of time.
I hate it.
They make something out of nothing all the time, and I think good times are coming again. And if you don't want to hurt, it seems like now's the time to jump on the wagon here. And here's the thing. You can jump on the wagon. I can't believe I'm selling this. I feel gross.
Without being a bandwagon.
Dirty inside.
If you jump now, you're not a bandwagon.
You're not a bandwagon because it hadn't happened yet. But good times are coming back to Foxborough. I hate it. But here's what I hate more: Titans fandom. Because all I know is they'll hurt me. And so for my son, I'm like, listen, Simeon, I love you. Your dad's watching Titans games, and it doesn't have to be this way. Don't do this to yourself.
Yeah.
Roll far away from the tree. Pick a team. The Ravens. Somebody. Sorry, but it can't be the Titans.
Yeah.
So I would say this: it's a chance to not be a bandwagon fan. It's a chance to go to a competent organization, and you've got probably the best coach in the league. In my head right now.
Man.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks. I thought that was well done. Second of all, I relate because my dad was a Detroit Lions fan, and it was brutal. Just heartbreak city over and over and over again. I never got on the train. I was like, I can't.
You got off that fast. When I think of the Titans, I think of like Eddie George, Steve McNair. I think Eddie George against the Rams, I don't know if it was 3 yards away from that touchdown.
Gosh,
I was watching that Super Bowl, and I grew up in Tennessee, so there's a lot of and they were relatively
they just
newish.
got there because they're from Houston. Yeah,
exactly.
And I think Kevin Dyson's reaching out there. Eddie George is on that team though, and Steve McNair was the quarterback. And because there's something wrong between the ears for me, that's like my introduction to football. And I could have been let's go Rams. But I didn't. I'm like, you know what I want? Pain and mediocrity. And so I'm just like, let's just make this burn the maximum amount possible. And I went with that. And so that image is forever burned in my brain. Yeah. But that group of dudes is why I'm a Titans fan. Because something about that was a group of just tough dudes. Our quarterback was his wife, Steve McNair's wife, became a nurse so she could mend his injuries at home because he was hurt so bad. Most of the time throughout the week, he couldn't lift his arms above his head, which seems bad if you're a professional thrower of the ball.
Not great.
I would say that's not ideal for the quarterback position. Eddie George was the toughest dude around. Keith Bullock, and I'm saying a bunch of random stuff, and I'm getting off track. I love it. But man, you just opened up some spot in my heart that is both joyous and full of unimaginable pain. So thank you, and also you're killing me.
Well, and I do need to say this just in hate of the Patriots. The one thing that sticks with me, and I wish I could get this out of my mind. But in all my Tom Brady,
I know.
Tom Brady kissed his 14-year-old son on the mouth, and I can't forget about it. It's so terrible.
It was. Tom Brady's this interesting character, and forgive me, I'm going along. Because Tom Brady's a dude who, in the offseason, had a ponytail and capri pants, and every dude in Boston, every longshoreman is that's my guy, and I don't understand that. What do you share other than he throws touchdown pass? That guy eats avocado ice cream and he's got capri pants on. That's not. He's a different kind of dude.
I was watching some of the shows on him, and there's this guy who was playing with him, and he wasn't even ready. And Tom Brady headbutts him, and he ends up chipping his tooth a little bit right before a game. He's like, I wasn't even ready for it. Tom Brady was so it's the dual nature of it because it's like you said, it's was dating and then married to a model, and I'm on a yacht, and I've got capris and stuff. And then the total transformation of this guy
into football Tom Brady, which is just a dude.
It is crazy.
Yeah. But I will say this to get redemption and maybe wrap this thing up. I don't know. My favorite memory, one of my favorite memories as a Titans fan, there's not many. Okay, that drawer's pretty empty. Okay, your boy's not experienced a lot of elation as a fan of the Titans. Again, however, the Titans in that, I think, first-round playoff game ended Tom Brady's time in New England by just smashing them one last time on the way out the door.
Yeah,
and so that was
that's
the one thing we've done.
Number 22, we just couldn't stop him.
Oh, Derrick Henry. Listen, that refrigerator with shoulder pads on. It's one of the greatest things that ever happened to us, and I wish him the best with the Ravens. He's finally gone to a competent organization, but seeing him leave was rough, for sure.
Man.
Yeah, and I think that Brady and Belichick were just not seeing eye to eye that last season. They could not get on the same page.
It's weird though because Belichick's been thinking so clearly with his dating life, and it just seems like he's so on top of it.
He seems to be totally with it right now. It's got to be rough if you're Belichick, and part of you thinks no matter what happens, I'm a genius. I'm going to take whatever this thing is, and I'm going to make a winner out of it. And the minute Tom Brady's gone, he wins the Super Bowl in 20 minutes with the Bucs, and then you're on a slowly sinking ship very quickly, where everybody that works for you is your son. And then you have a guy that's...
And his son, the look of his son is hilarious.
It's insane. And then if you notice, his defensive coordinator before came back and was an offensive coordinator later on, and that guy kind of looks like he was trying to capture olive oil. He kind of looks like Brutus or whatever that guy's name is.
Bruno.
Am I wrong about this?
Matt
He's
Patricia.
always got a pencil in his ear. I'm like, does the pencil work?
Yeah.
Are we on like a dry erase board with a pencil?
Like,
what
you
are we
know
doing?
that sheet's laminated,
Like,
right, bro?
what's
Like,
going
that
on?
sheet's laminated. You're not writing anything. I know how this works. I'm not new.
Yeah, that's the Lions coming to bite me again, because if they had never hired him as a head coach, we would have never gotten him back as an offensive coordinator.
But he would have hired just another son at that point in time, or somebody who was like just in like a accounting or something with the organization. Because at that point in time, he's just like, I'm tired of meeting new people. I know all the guys I need to know, and the answer is going to be somewhere down this hall. And so that might have been the best you were going to get.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I don't know how we got here, but I'm glad we made it. It's good.
All right, so should we, for the second time, turn to our honored guest
Yes,
and
please.
have us get out of this banter? You remember?
Oh man, and y'all keep doing this to me, and I keep botching it.
No, you're great.
Here we go. All right, here we go.
Let's
Time to take it to the next level.
From the hearts of the Low Country in South Carolina.
It's the Take Two podcast, where we take theology to the next level. We want to make podcasts great again.
All right.
All right, well, there we go. Red shirts, not red hats today. Jeez Louise.
Well, give Hayden a
there you
chance.
go. Oh, yeah, okay.
Oh, did you see the back?
I've not seen the back of it. I heard something about it because you were talking. So I heard y'all talking about like how this is kind of the churched up one, and this is one of the things. And I hate saying this. It disgusts me. This is one of the areas where I would kind of lean toward Mr. White's sensibilities. I'm glad, and I call Mr. White because I'm so used to being in front of kids. Jonathan's sensibilities, because like without that on the back, I would struggle more with it on the front. And again, it hurts my soul to agree with that man. But here we are.
Yeah, well, I clearly agreed with him because I got it.
Naturally.
Because we were kind of joking about give Hate a chance, and there was another guy that I played D&D with. He was like, "Yeah, let's just have that on there because you want to make merch that people are going to buy." I think he has one that just says "Give Hate a chance," and he's like, "No, to me, it's a conversation starter because I want to provoke someone asking me a question." And then I want to tell them about this. So I think his heart's there. His just approach is different.
Yeah. And it's a level of, you would think from the time we've had that like I would be more comfortable with the snark. But like me, I'm a little more careful. There's part of me still's like, hey, we gotta, we gotta fly right here.
So speaking of Jonathan White, you met him one day.
This is the reason we're here.
Yeah.
To hear about you
the
and
origin
Jonathan
story
White.
of my long-standing feud and friendship with Jonathan White. Sweet mercy. Okay, so let's do this. All right, so I was teaching for about 3 years at the point in time that Mr. White, Jonathan White, showed up to teach, and he was put in the room next to me. He'd never taught middle school before.
I think he wants to go by John. Jay Carl.
I know.
And I don't know what the obsession is with that. Like, Jonathan's
is.
fine, but he's changed. I've noticed he's changed his.
I don't know this. Yeah, he wants to go by John.
He's changed his tag on. Like you can fill out what your name is that's associated with your email to John. So it's like John White at NorthwoodAcademy.com.
Of course, naturally.
Are there any cool nicknames you have for Jonathan that we can I can casually throw his way?
Well,
okay.
I mean, there's plenty of things. I mean, it's usually insults, obviously, and it's usually me calling him pretentious or something because he constantly is. Okay, like we could not be more opposite human beings. The man shows up every day, and he's dressed in this pristine, ridiculous. He's in a suit every day. I'm like, buddy, you're working with middle schoolers. Okay, listen, it is what it is. Like we're in the bowels of the ship together. You may be at the head of the bowels of the ship, but we're still in the bowels of the ship. Okay, and so naturally, when I first met him, this is a problem in my soul. I'll say this is a sanctification process I had to go through. The person that used to be in the room next to me in the middle school hallway over here was Miss Gibson, Miss Gibson was an English teacher here for a long time. She taught 7th grade English. I was a 7th and 8th grade history teacher. And so she functioned because I'm kind of a crazy person, in case we haven't figured this out from this microphone in front of my face yet. But I'm a little bit out there. And so she kind of was like the guardrails for me going through the beginning of teaching. She would let me know, hey, definitely an important email. You should take a look at that. Or, hey, whatever, all kinds of things. She was kind of like she was
mentor.
like a mentor for me here. Yeah. And so, and she was my 7th grade teacher. She was my 7th grade English teacher. So, I worked with her for a couple of years, and then all of a sudden she's gone. And I hate change so bad again. And so all of a sudden I know there's going to be change. And then the change that shows up the first day back to school is there's a guy in the room next to me, and he's just got, he's got the hipster glasses going. He's got the full suit on. I'm dressed in the coach's quarter zip that looks kind of like a trash bag that you cut sleeves into it. And I'm like, this guy. And I'm like, I'm going to hate him. I'm going to hate him. And not only am I going to hate him, and this is wrong. It's wrong. But I want to hate him. And so I'm like, okay, this is what it is. I'm like, great. So we go to the first meetings. I'm sitting with at the time I was still coaching football. So I was kind of sitting with those guys. And then there's Mr. White, aka Jonathan, or John, or whatever we're doing these days.
J. Carl.
Okay, there it is. There it is.
Another one he wants to go by.
Of course. Yeah, we got to go by. But yeah, we got to get an initial in there because we're artsy now. Sure. Yeah. He's got a master's, don't you know? But anyway, so I see him.
All with love.
And I'm like, yes, naturally. Hate saying this again. Let's clarify. He's a friend of mine, been a friend of mine a long time. So it's all friendly ribbon. And ultimately, at the end of the day, for dudes, I don't know who said this, but it's not my quote here. Insults are the language of friendship here. Yeah. And so I insult him very, very aggressively here, but it is what it is. And he's earned it. He knows he's earned it. So I see him, and I'm like, man, this dude. And so when it started to change, kind of happened by accident, because I automatically assume all the worst. Whatever I don't know about him, I fill in the details. And I'm like, this guy, I look at that jacket. That's a prosperity gospel guy if I ever saw it. I'm like, I'm not going to like this guy. And then all of a sudden, they're like, hey, he's a middle school teacher. You're a middle school teacher. We have these kind of small group things. At the time, they're called Storm. Now they've been called Impact Groups. And it's different kids from all throughout the campus. And the idea is to get them all together and have a small group thing instead of a regular chapel setting. So it's more intimate. You can talk and really get to know a group of kids. And because he's a new teacher, they put him in there with me. And so I show up that time, and I'm like, I'm coming in hot on this thing. It's about suffering and something like that. And I expected him to want some flowery nonsense back there. He's sitting in the back, and he's just kind of watching, figuring everything out. And so I come in top rope, pretty aggressively, hey, some kind of God wills, things to happen to you. And that's for your good. And trying to get this point across to kids, and I've got a video to kind of go with it. And it's heavy. And it's in a way that I thought most people were going to be pretty upset about it. And so I keep looking back at him. I'm like, I know he's going to lecture me when we get done. Because he looks like a guy that would lecture you. He definitely does. Okay. So we go through and we get done. And he kind of walks up and he was complimentary. And I'm like, in my heart, I'm a little upset. So I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to hate him. Because he's with me now. He's with me. He's in the canoe with me here. We're rowing in the same direction theologically. And then he had a message at chapel early on, and I'm like, so he gets up there and he does his thing. And it's an aggressive, a message, again, on the topic of suffering, and he does it in front of the chapel. And it was pointed, it was difficult to kind of give in front of that group of kids. And so I was like, all right, I guess I do have to like this guy. And I keep begrudgingly giving him a little bit more respect. And then what kind of had to break it was the ultimate proving ground for a middle school teacher. The overnight field trip. And so we're going on a 7th grade field trip. I show up and I'm getting on the bus and I'm sitting there in the front and I'm like, all right, let's see. I'm going to pull out my book here. I'm reading some C.S. Lewis. I think it was Till We All Have Faces, one of the C.S. Lewis books. And I'm kind of going through and starting that off. And I'm like, well, let's see what happens here. And so he starts chiming in on C.S. Lewis, and I'm like, if you like C.S. Lewis, the war's over. The war's over. I have to I don't have to love all that's going on there, but I think we're friends here, and I think I got to call it détente, and we got to move forward. And so that's where we go.
C.S. Lewis.
C.S. Lewis. Listen, if you go to C.S., there's a couple people. C.S. Lewis is one, and I don't know how you're gonna feel it. Tim Keller for me. As a guy that wants to think through Christianity a good deal, as a guy that just naturally just produced all these sort of resource stuff. So if you're in on either one of those guys, there's a level of respect that I have to go with. And he's been, in fairness, he's been a huge resource to me as a teacher, as a friend. When things are going on, he's a sounding board for me as somebody I work next to and somebody who's now a principal here, where we can kind of go through and I go, hey, I was going to talk about this topic because I teach Bible now in this way. What do you think? Or he'd say, well, that's great. Or he would say, hey, well, why don't you look at it this way? And so he's been a big resource for me as a teacher. And quite frankly, in a job like this, and forgive me if I talk too long here, guys.
No, you're good.
It can be a lonely business. And you think that sounds ridiculous because you're in front of people all day. Yeah. And for some of us, I don't have a traditional planning period throughout the day. So it's just this army of children that comes through of different ages that comes through, about 20 at a time every 50 minutes. And you see everybody in the morning before you start, you say hi, and then you kind of go down the salt lines and you work all day, and then you emerge at the end. And you really don't know how you did, because it's not a group of people who are going to be naturally responsive to what you're saying all the time. And that's partially developmental, it's partially just where their heads are. As you get in the older groups, sometimes it's like, hey, I have these sins in my life, and if I adopt some of the things you're talking about, that has ramifications for how I live, and I don't want to do that yet. And so I have to understand where they're coming from, but that doesn't give you the feedback you always want. So for Jonathan and others, it's good to have those people around to kind of help you out in those circumstances.
No, I love that so much, because it's such a travesty if you only hang around people that like totally echo everything you say. Do you say personality? It's like, man, that's really cool to see that connection, how you guys balance, like you guys feel very strongly about the things that matter, and then can have that good back and forth, and like you're saying, sanctification for each other. I'm sure I can't wait for is Jonathan White back on the podcast and get a rebuttal. It'll be great.
Fairness to him, this is a complete and shameless blindside.
Oh, I love it.
And I don't apologize for it.
That's right.
I'm here to do it. You put the mic in front of my face, this is what you get, and so here we are. But in fairness, he has been a good friend. He's been helpful in this business, and so definitely appreciate it.
No, that's great. You got any comments on this specifically?
Yeah, I was just going to say about the fashion. I had this this green. I even forgot what it's called. The little Irish wool cap. Thing that kind of bends down that I wore a couple times, and I wore it one time specifically because I wanted the green there. And I was like, I don't think it really goes with this outfit as well. But
so this is like the kind of fluffy hat with the bill on it? Like kind of the Bagger Vance special
cap.
sort of deal?
Yeah, it's called a flat cap.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah,
right.
Like you're selling like newspapers in the 1920s.
Like a news, you're like 9 years old and smoking cigarettes outside of New York City.
Yeah, and I realized like with my outfit, it's not the best jive, but I wore it for a particular reason that evening. And he was like, what you need to get is a tweed suit coat with the elbow patches, have it all be like natural grain colors and stuff. And he's talking me up, and I was like, I can see how that would go together. I haven't bought it yet, but maybe
I've gotten in his
future.
head now. So like sometimes he'll come by and he'll say, because he's education through and through. He loves it. He lives it. That's one. And he'll come out, and he'll start using terms or whatever, and he'll start talking about, in literature and transcendentalism. And I just like, come on, what are we doing? What are we doing right now? Like, can you calm down a little bit, bud? So he talks about that sort of stuff the way I would talk about sports. And so I know what you're talking about. And usually that's the point in time where I kind of look at him and he understands what I'm saying here, which is like, bro. Come on now.
That's so good. And do you have anything else on this specifically? I don't want to move on too fast.
No, it's good.
I was going to say, this is, I like all these thoughts, like, so the different pieces complement each other so well. You mentioned, Tim Keller. A minute ago, before we went on air, we were talking about baptism, and, Tim Keller, Presbyterian. You go to Presbyterian church, and it's like, I know from my own life, I feel like in a lot of ways, I probably have benefited from Presbyterian authors a lot more than your Southern Baptist hyper dispensational.
Careful admitting that on these mics.
So it's so it's like Tim Keller's great, Kevin DeYoung. You got these people. It's like, man, they're just so clear. They write so well.
DeYoung is Presbyterian.
What was that?
DeYoung is Presbyterian.
I think so.
I did not know that.
I didn't know that.
No, his church was actually. I think it used to be PCUSA, and he recently brought them to the PCA. And maybe he needs to rethink the PCA now with everything going on there. I don't know. Maybe he needs to go OPC. I don't know. But it's
some guy, R something.
RC Sprill. Some weird guy. But it's like, I feel like all of the really well thought out books are written by a Presbyterian, and then all the not bad books, but they're not quite as they're maybe a lot of times more superficial or on the bad side of things.
It's a little less linear, and quite frankly, in fairness, it's a little less pedantic at times. There's a stuffiness. Love the Presbyterian environment, but it can be a little stuffy at times. Yeah. But certainly, it's produced some good people who've influenced my life from the local level with my pastor Nathan Francis to big figures like Tim Keller, Sinclair Ferguson, people like that have impacted my life. And we were talking about this off air earlier. Like, I don't know. This comes down to an issue for me of theologically what ultimately matters, because I did not grow up in a Presbyterian environment. I grew up going to church here. Honestly, theologically, I probably am more Reformed Baptist, which I think maybe y'all don't admit it, but I think that's what what Trump's Bible Church is.
So if we were trying to brush in broad strokes, we'd be Reformed Baptist. maybe with some
Light.
asterisks.
Because the Reformed people will come at you and say, you got to be Calvinistic, creedal, and confessional.
Right.
And we'd be like, well, we're not confessional. I know we're not saying the 1689 is our letter. Because I've said this before, and those Reformed people come at you hard, and they're like, don't you say you're Reformed. You know what I mean?
Typically, our senior pastor might say, we're Reformed in our soteriology.
Yeah.
We are, as a church, dispensational, but we're not like that hardline dispensational craziness that first came out. In fact, my pastor and I mean, I guess in one sense, we're both pastors because we're both elders there, but our senior pastor and I are both what we would term progressive dispensationalists. So it's like as close to being covenant theology that you can be, but Israel still has a role, and there will be a literal millennial reign. But other than that, it's like a lot of you might get there different ways, but where you end up is very similar to what some covenant theologians might believe.
And having been in different settings, like there's so much overlap between the two. And so like the thing that we kind of discussed for a little bit here was like, what are the lines? What are kind of the things that are non-negotiables as Christians? And then what are those things that are kind of second tier?
Close communion, non-negotiable.
We would probably disagree on that.
I'll just say I was raised close communion, and
I heard that
man, the people at that church growing up, they believed it with all their hearts, and I'm not there today because I'm like, I think Paul probably took communion with the churches he planted, and he wasn't a member of that local body.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty good argument. That's a guy that kind of has some sway in this community.
A little bit, yes. I think that's this is such a good topic to think through, because I think previously you said on one level, in the context of your students coming from all walks of life, what is essential? There's so much, there's a billion different denominations within each denomination. There's different, whatever. And then even on this level, how does that flesh out practically? How does that? I would really, maybe for different podcasts, love to hear. Yeah, what's your life like at a Presbyterian church? Because, and at the same time, there are things about Charleston Bible Church are not my favorite. I'm not like 100%, even though I would say very, very closely aligned. But
let's just talk about those later, and we'll
very different.
And Michael
things.
Get you straight, yeah.
So anyway, I think those are really good questions that have practical implications on all sorts of different levels. But it's
And in a school setting, it's very different because you're not holding people to the same confession of faith that you would in your local church. And so trying to find out and draw clear lines of like, we stand for this, and we're very clear about certain lines. And then other lines that are lower tier, really kind of tier 3, kind of tertiary issues, old earth, young earth, those type of things, which I think we would all agree is kind of a tertiary sort of issue. Like we can disagree on that, but and in drawing as few hardcore lines as we can while also being faithful to the message of the gospel in a setting where we know people are coming from all sorts of backgrounds. And even amongst the Christians, there's going to be a lot of different opinions. Yeah. So in a classroom setting, particularly as I'm teaching seniors, since they're really starting to, some of them are really taking ownership for this for the first time, like clearly stating what I believe, stating what is non-negotiable and what's not is very important, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. That sounds really good. What you got, Michael? What you thinking?
Nothing. I would just echo what he was saying. I think the only time because most of the questions that you get asked, at least that I experienced, were because I would occasionally have what we would call a question Friday, where, maybe we don't do trig today because y'all don't care about trig as seniors anyways, because this is not the honors class, so y'all are not going to go major in something that requires math. Yeah. So like I could see I want you to learn the skills of trig, but I can see there's a bigger picture. So we would just take a break sometime and just talk, and you'd get some random stuff like, do ghosts exist and stuff. So they're not asking about paedo baptism and creedal baptism or anything like that.
Not usually. No. Usually the questions are like, about like the truthfulness of the gospel or the faith.
Have you got like just a oddly hyper specific, like, explain to me supralapsarianism versus infralapsarianism, something like crazy like that? You're like, what? What are you talking about?
No. Geez, that's a great question. You get ones, and this is an episode I know y'all have covered before, and I believe you even have a shirt about this, if I'm correct. But I'll occasionally, like a kid will just come off the top rope with like hey, Nephilim, big fella, let's do this. And then I've learned this from the previous podcast. It's like, maybe I'm not pronouncing it right, because it's one of those words like I always felt like I was good on it, and then y'all were like, trying to just.
I think it is Nephilim, right?
I think it is.
It's a word that you see all the time, but it's not like I'm going to hear that at Publix when I'm buying rutabagas. Yeah. So there's no way for me to know. It's just a word you see, and so you say it, and then you're like, maybe I got that right, maybe I didn't.
Yeah, I think we probably butchered it like the first episode we talked about on it too. It's just so funny.
But if we all butcher it together and we do it confidently, we're good to go.
Yeah. I had one student one time ask me, what do you think about where I'm at spiritually, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, you want the unvarnished truth? And he was like, yeah. And I laid it out for him. And I was like, I think, and then another guy heard that. He's like, you tell me. And I'm like, well, you know what? And I was like, my guess is you're struggling with porn right now. And I gave him all these reasons. And he was like, you're not wrong on that. So you can have some very serious conversations about stuff. And those were sometimes I felt like, can I have this conversation with you? Can I be just no varnish what I think what's going on in your life right now? But I think that those guys respected me because we had that conversation.
Yeah, and to some extent they want to see a level of courage from you to be willing to say like, hey, I'm going to tell you the truth on any number of different issues. And the fact that you're willing to have deep conversations about big issues, there's a balance, because it's like, I don't want to speak about a student with limited information if I'm not pretty certain about what I'm saying. But if you're asking me, here's where I think your heart is, here's where I think whatever's going on in your life, here's what concerns me. And that's, one of those things that we're always looking for. We're looking for those opportunities, and if a student lays it in front of you, it's kind of fair game. But there's also the atmosphere of am I doing it in a public setting? Am I having a conversation in a private setting?
If we didn't do that in front of the whole class.
Okay. But obviously, certain ones are definitely going to be in private, but there are other ones that on a theological issue or something like that, it's okay, this is brought up in public, this is a class setting. I think it's a big thing, and one of the things that I've really tried to model, especially with the seniors now, is try to tell them hey, you're going to have to comport yourself in a Christian manner as we disagree, and so I have to really model that. So one of the things we've done, and this is kind of on a side tangent here, is I do current events where I have them bring in a topic they want to talk about and write out an article, what happened basically, who wrote it, what's the source, and I'll analyze the source a little bit, but more so the big thing is okay, how do I fit this into a Christian worldview? What should a Christian think about this? And they have a couple sentences, 4, 5 sentences on it, paragraph, and so then talk about it, and it brings up lots of things, and occasionally it brings up disagreements with me over political issues, over social issues, whatever it is. And so one of the things that is challenging is, and the kids are almost always very respectful, but even if it starts to elevate, or if they talk to each other in a certain type of way, I want to model hey, we don't get to stop being Christian because we disagree with someone on a political issue, and we have to comport ourselves differently regardless of how the world treats us. And certainly in a room where theoretically we're talking amongst Christians and friends, we need to disagree better. And so trying to teach kids to do that, and they're usually good at it, but occasionally it's the world they grow up in. It's snarky one-liners online. It's things like that. It's pretty glib insults, which are always a part of being a teenager. But I think when it's on your phone and it's in your pocket, it never leaves you in a way that we could kind of leave it alone for a little while. And so I think it hits different.
Yeah, that's great, because we can't disagree. It's you always just want to dunk on someone with this one-liner, got him. It's more about that than discourse.
And who does that help?
It helps no one.
That's because that instantly is going to make the person defensive. And so what I big questions I want to use in different environments, and I don't always get to it. I'm certainly not perfect. Ask anyone who's been in my class. You got a whole crew in your house that have been in my class. Is I want to ask certain questions okay, what do you think I mean when I say this? It puts them in my situation, or ask them to define a term for me, that kind of thing. Just because those kind of open up conversation in a different type of way, and hopefully create some level of empathy, some level of understanding for the other side. Because I alone am not wise, and neither are you. So let's see where the other person comes from. We can still disagree. That's perfectly fine and good and healthy at times. But ultimately, we have to disagree as Christians first and foremost. If that makes sense.
Dude, that's great.
It's great.
I love it. Where are we at on our timing here?
Well, overall, it's just hard to know because we're borrowing, but the counter says 38.
Oh, sweet. This is good. I think this primes the pump really well. I would, one of these podcasts, it's going to get crowded in here. But we got to get J. Carl. Honestly, wear the J. Carl. I want to see you dressed to the nines. I want you in the tweed.
You show up in your uniform. And one last thing before I'm sorry, I got to say this. We did one day at school. The kids asked us to do it one day, and they said, "Look, can you dress as each other?"
Yes.
And so
that's awesome.
Here's the part that's sad about this part. So he texted me that morning. He's like, "Hey, I need to know you're still doing this." Because he was going to get there before me. He's like, "I need to know I'm not being left on an island with no explainer." And the amazing thing is, when I showed up, I'm pretty, I'm about as low-key as they get in attire, as you can see from this moment here. But he usually shows up obviously dressed at a different level in the hair and whatnot. So he's like, "Okay, what's the quintessential Gilbert look?" And I'm like, "Okay." So we gave him a football coach's shirt and gym shorts, which is quite a thing if you're not, because you're used to Jonathan being dressed rigidly and starchy. And so seeing him dressed in my attire and not doing his hair, just kind of leaving it down. And here's the thing, he got there first and he's in there getting coffee and making copies or doing whatever he does before he teaches the class, whatever. And so he's in there and nobody wanted to ask him about it. Because I think it's near the end of the year and we were having AC trouble that day and they're like, "He just gave up." I think they're like, "He just gave up. He just stopped. Even he broke." And so nobody said anything until they saw me show up. And the expectations I set were apparently so low because they see me show up and I'm dressed like him. I've got on the long sleeve shirt. I got on the hipster glasses. I'm doing whatever here. I've got a coffee mug. Just trying to, what if I was unfathomably pretentious, what would I do? And so I'm like, here we are. And so I showed up that day. And then at that point in time, it made sense. And I think he felt more comfortable. But I was physically hurt that day. And I think he was emotionally hurt because he felt vulnerable. He's like, "I don't usually dress like this." I'm like, "Bro, what do you think I'm doing over here?"
Or bare. Yeah, it's great. That's so funny.
So it was a different
do you have a picture of that? I would have loved to see the dress as each other.
I will need to try to find that. And I'll get my phone and we'll look at the picture of that here in a little bit.
Yeah, we'll put it up.
Love it.
Yeah.
Now the real question is, do you remember what to say to close us out?
Golly, see, I keep getting walked to this ledge every time, and I'm going to fall off the edge every single time. So I keep getting walked, and then you just kind of give it that last push at the end, and that's what this feels like here. I think, and I'm going to get this wrong, and I'm going to do it confidently, and that's going to make it worse.
That's good.
And that's our take.
Thanks for listening to Take Two. Find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube for those who want to watch our videocast.